Hello everyone! I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today we are going to talk about, I got my book published. Now what do I do? So I have talked a bit about this in various other videos on my channel, but I figured we'll put it all in one place in this video for y'all just to make it a little bit easier. So let's dive right in. First things first, you're a published author. Congratulations! You made it! Getting published is no easy feat, but then working as an actual working author is also not easy. So strap in, my friends, because it is going to be a long and bumpy ride. The first thing with after you get published, I'm assuming that you have either signed a contract with a traditional publisher for whether it's a book or a trilogy or a series or insert whatever here, or you're working as an indie author and you chose to go the route of publishing your stories yourself. It doesn't really matter which course you take. The paths are going to be about the same. The only difference is how exactly you procure your books and a few details around that. But other than that, everything is going to be about the same. Step number one, you've been published. Now what do you do? Hopefully, if you were traditionally published, your publisher has been holding your hand and helping you a little bit through this process, in that you should have already been through this process of how to market your book for the big release day. If you already released your book, don't panic. You may have missed out on a couple of these windows, but that's okay. But first things first, if your book hasn't been released yet, you want to make sure that you have a marketing plan for releasing your book. And what that means is that you have certain milestones that you are going to announce, whether it's on social media, on your website, on your email mailing list, whatever have you. And you want to announce things like revealing the cover art for your book, talking about scheduling release parties, talking about pre-sales, and then of course the big grand day of when the book is actually released. Making sure that you have those milestones on your calendar and that you're posting about them, that is marketing your book before the book is actually released, and those are really important. They're going to really help contribute to your pre-sales as well as your release day sales and then sales going forward. The biggest part of being a working author is continually building your brand and building your audience. Those are the two most important things that you need to be doing. And the best way to do that is to start from day zero. I have several other videos that are specifically about this process, about actually the full plan of how to market your book and all the nitty-gritty into that. This is a quick timeline checklist to kind of go through for this video. So I will be putting links down below for the different sections that we're going to talk about, where you can then watch those videos and get more in-depth deep dives on these different parts of the process. The next step is release day. When your book is finally an actual book and the book is physically in your hands, it's on bookshelves, it's available for sale. Yay! This is the big day that all authors dream about. This is a very big, important day. You want to make sure that you are shouting it from the rooftops. You want to make sure you are posting it anywhere and everywhere. You want to make sure that you annoy all of your friends and family to let them know how important this is, and by the way, your book is available if they want to buy it. You should also make sure that you have release parties. What is a release party? A release party is an event that you put together where you promote your book and ultimately convince people to buy your book. A release party can be anything. It can be something as simple and stereotypical as doing a book signing at a bookshop, or it can be a fabulous party. Make it your own. That's a big part of building your brand, is deciding how you want to represent yourself and how you want to represent your books. Personally, my book release parties varied wildly. When I first debuted as an author, I had some of the stereotypical book signings and book readings at bookstores. I even had book release parties at nightclubs. I even had a book release party at one of my drag shows. Get creative with how you want to promote your book, because you never know who might enjoy it or what kind of audience you're going to build. So absolutely get creative with the kinds of release parties that you want to have in order to promote your book. Going forward, all right, a little bit of the glitter has rubbed off of your book. It's not exactly the day one super nice and shiny, but you need to still keep promoting it. And you need to promote it basically until the end of time. Even as you write more books, still need to promote book 1 and book 2 and so on and so forth. You still need to continue to market your books. It is very hard to get to the point of being the whole New York seller, best times, da-da-da, it sells itself sort of thing. That's a pie in the sky goal. Most authors have to continually work at marketing their books in order to get sales, and when you stop marketing them, you stop making sales. So it's very important to work out what kinds of strategies are going to work best for you and your branding in your books. So keep that in mind. I have a lot of videos about all these different kinds of marketing strategies and how exactly to go about that, but you're going to basically want to build your forever marketing plan. In addition to the whole, as I call it, passive selling of your book, i.e. online sales, marketing, and all of that, and then book sales just happen in the background and then you see them on a spreadsheet on your computer, there's also the direct in-person sales, i.e. events and conventions. And unless you have a publisher that is super involved, you're going to have to do all these yourself. Most publishers are not going to just set up conventions and events for you and then just ship you off there. Most of the time you have to be, again, that New York Times bestseller, whoop-de-doo, all that, in order to achieve that kind of handling from a publisher. The majority of authors, you have to go out there and you have to research what conventions are in your local area, research how much they cost, research how exactly to go about applying for them and being a part of them, and then of course the logistics of actually attending and selling at them, which is a whole hullabaloo. I have more videos about how exactly to do all that, all the nitty-gritty on how to do that, but that also has to be part of your plan, is figuring out what conventions are there for you to attend, what times of year are they typically held, and how exactly do you become a part of those? Do you just fill out an online application on their website? Do you have to get in the good graces of the people that organize these events? Do you have to achieve some sort of level of notoriety in order to be invited to these events? All of these things are important to know, as well as making sure that you're researching, do these events fit your branding in your books? So for instance, let's say you're a children's book author. You're probably not going to want to hit up the horror and Halloween fests because the patrons there are probably not going to match up with the type of audience that are going to buy your book, and you're probably going to spend a lot of time sitting there and not making any sales. Conversely, you want to make sure that you don't miss the boat on important events that are going to be a really good fit for your book. And there are a lot of big time conventions where they are very specific, where it's like, this is the yearly convention for romance novels, this is the yearly convention for fantasy novels, whatever. There are those big time whoop-de-doo events that are for these different specific niches in the writing world, and you want to make sure that you know about those ahead of time so that you can work toward making those a part of your convention circuit. It's also important to take into consideration having a variety of events in your con circuit schedule. So that means having big whoop-de-doo conventions, having small conventions, having small local events, local library events, out-of-state events, even small little coffee shop gatherings and readings. All those sort of things should be a part of your con circuit schedule. Having that variety is not only going to help you to better financially prepare for all these different events so that they're not all the top dollar conventions, that you do have some that are either low cost or even free, big help, but also it helps you to make sure that you're building your branding and your audience on both ends, that you're reaching a larger, more global audience, but you're also reaching your local audience too. A lot of times authors forget about the importance of getting your local neighborhood involved, of getting your local library involved. All of that. You want to tap into the people that are literally next door before you worry about the people that are in other states and even other countries and what they think of your book. Sometimes just going around to local events and involving your local neighborhood can be a really great way to grow your own base, to grow your audience. And there's even a checklist within this checklist for that, as I said, and I break that down in my other videos about specifically how to attend a convention, how to plan an event, all those sort of things. But the gist of it is that you need to figure out such things as make sure you have book inventory. You have to have actual physical books to sell, so make sure that you get those logistics squared away before the day of the event comes. Make sure that you have ways to actually do commerce, aka make sure you have a change bank of money to be able to make change. Make sure you're able to take credit cards with things like Square. all those sort of things to be able to actually sell your books. Sounds like Captain Obvious, but you would be surprised at how many people forget these things, myself included. My very first event, I completely forgot that I needed to have a change bank, and I had to run out to the bank last minute to go get money to be able to make change for people. It was really embarrassing. So don't be me. Make sure you're able to make change and to actually take money from people so you can sell your books. It's a really important step. Another really important step is figuring out all of the logistics of this so that you don't get burnt out. And what that means is that it's really hard to work on writing more books as an author if you are constantly on the road just doing conventions. Conversely, it's very hard to market your new books if you're not doing any conventions and you're just being a goblin sitting at home in the dark writing more books. You want to make sure that you have balance and make sure that you create goals and deadlines for yourself so that you can balance all of this out, because the first year and possibly even the second year can be really hard to achieve that balance, because it is exciting and it's fun and you want to do all the things, but you also want to write more books, and it can be hard to figure out how exactly to balance all that. So make sure that you have a plan and that you're kind to yourself. And then of course the biggest thing is reevaluate. After every event, reevaluate. What things did you like about that event? What things were not as great as what you expected? What was the audience reception like? Did they like your book? Did they ignore your book? Things like that. You want to make sure that you're constantly reevaluating these different events. Do you want to attend it again? Do you think that it would be profitable or beneficial for you to attend again? And then also examine, okay, I did this many events this year, or even I did this many events this month, or I did this many events in the past 3 months. Do you need to reevaluate your schedule? Do you still have enough time to work on your next book and work on all the other things you have to do in your life, just friends and family and upkeep and possibly a day job and all that stuff? It's all a balancing act. Make sure that you're constantly reevaluating all these things so that you can eventually create a balance that works for you. Some authors are able to just constantly be on the convention circuit and do multiple events every month. It's wild. Others, you'll only see them a handful of times a year. Both are perfectly reasonable. You have to do whatever works for you and works for your brand. Another item that people oftentimes don't consider when first starting out as an author is branding materials. You want to make sure that you have branding materials, especially if you're doing in-person events. And what that means is something as simple as having business cards to hand out. Make sure that you have some sort of business card that has your information on it. Make sure that while yes, it is great to have business cards that have a fun, catchy design, at the end of the day, the function of a business card is to give that person your information on how to get in contact with you and how to ultimately buy your books. So the biggest, most important thing is make sure that the information is easy to read. Make sure you pick a font that's easy to read and easy to identify the different letters and numbers. Make sure that it's not too small. Don't try to cram too much information on a business card. Keep it simple. And if you're able to do that with a fun and catchy design, then that's just icing on the cake. Other important marketing materials that you want to have are postcards. So it's really great to have, especially at conventions, if you're already in the process of working on your next book, create a postcard style business card advertising your next book that's going to come out. It's really great to have these free materials that people can just pick up. Even if they don't end up buying one of your books, they might pick up these different materials from your booth and they might end up buying your book online later, or they might remember you and then the next event that they see you at, then they will buy a book, or they buy your book and then they also have that material to know, hey, after I finish this, I need to be on the lookout for their next book because that's going to be coming out. So make sure you have materials available to advertise that, yeah, I have more stuff in the pipeline. Really important to market that and not only market the stuff that you have available right at this moment. And that is a big thing that I talk about in my other videos on marketing, is that is what really helps you to stay relevant, especially in the online social media arenas, is talking about what you're currently working on and what future plans you have for other books. Is you want to make sure that you keep that ball rolling, because because yeah, it's great that you got this book published, but the next thing people are going to ask you is, what's your next book about? When is it coming out? When are you going to be done writing it? Every time, I guarantee you that those are the next questions that people are going to ask you after you tell them that you published a book, or they're at your booth and they're seeing the book that you have available. They're going to ask you, what about the next one? So make sure that you have answers for that, and make sure that you are posting about them as frequently as you can in order to keep that interest up, so that it still points to your current book, but it's also building that interest in your future books. Last but not least, you want to make sure that you build a community. Now, this is different from building your branding and your audience. Your community is built with other authors and other writers and editors and publishers, just everyone that is actually in the industry with you. It is so important to build your community because this is what's really going to help you learn and grow as an author. I myself have a very strong and amazing community that I am so grateful for. They have done so much for me to help me to grow as an author. In fact, my mentor, Tina Jens, is a big part of the reason why I got my first book published. Make sure you're building that community for yourself, that you have people that have your back and that can help you through all these different steps in the process, because whether they've gone before you and done it all and they can give you advice, or they're currently right there with you and y'all are learning together, at least you have someone there with you in it. And that makes all the difference. I have seen how big of a struggle it can be for authors who do have the unfortunate image in their heads of the stereotypical Hollywood writer that Hollywood really likes to put out there, that we're all a bunch of goblin recluses that don't talk to each other and we don't talk to other people and da-da-da, and they think that they're an island and they can do this all by themselves. And while technically you can, I really don't recommend it. It makes it so much easier and honestly so much more fun if you have a community of other writers and authors and editors, etc. All of that with you. I cannot tell you how much fun I have at conventions with all of my author friends, and we're all talking about each other's books, and we're all talking about what panels we're going to be on, and we're all hanging out together. It is a blast, y'all. Even for the most selfish reasons. Absolutely take advantage of that in just the very basis of at least you're going to have friends that know what it is to be you and do what you do. And of course, the benefits of being able to learn and help each other doesn't hurt either. Make sure that you take the time, build those connections, and make sure that you're also giving back to that community too, because it becomes really obvious really fast when someone in a community is accepting a lot of help but isn't really giving anything in return. Make sure that you're being a team player as well. As I said, I have tons of other videos that go really into the nitty-gritty of these different topics. This is really just a big overview sort of checklist that you want to make sure that you're following with, all right, you've landed that big book contract, or all right, you've decided to finally push that button and self-publish your novel. Now what do you do? Make sure that these different steps are on your checklist in order to give yourself the best chance for success. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.